Murder of Henry Nowak, who was handcuffed by police while dying, fuels outrage in UK. The Henry Nowak arrest footage raises serious questions for police. PM says I can't breathe. Video shows UK cops handcuffing teen stabbed by Indian origin man. NDTV Kirpans and UK knife law. What are the rules? Major Russian missile, drone attack on Ukraine kills at least 22, topples artmen building, officials say. CBS News. Russian offensive campaign assessment, June 2, 2026. Institute for the Study of War. Russia launches deadly strikes on Kiev after threatening Ukraine for a week. The major Russian attack kills at least 22 and leaves Ukraine pleading for help from Trump. NBC News. Russia launches one of the biggest drone and missile attacks on Kiev in months, as it pinned. Celebration, shock and skepticism follow Colombia's presidential election. Colombian presidency goes to runoff election that could redefine relations with the US. Trump endorses Colombian presidential candidate Dolores Briella. Colombia's populist, bucal-loving right looks likely to win power. The Economist. Trump backs Dolores Briella in Colombia runoff against Cepeda. Bloomberg. EU strikes migration deal for more deportations and detention centers abroad. EU accused of creating ICE-style immigration enforcement system. EU reaches deal on a return hubs for rejected asylum seekers. Why is the EU establishing return hubs for migrants, and why are they so controversial? Euronews. A bear injures 4 people in a residential area of Jan as attacks rise. Israel. PM orders strikes on Beirut suburbs as Hezbollah conflict escalates. Israel strikes South Lebanon after stepping back from Beirut attack. Israel kills 11 in Lebanon, a day after Trump said Israel and Hezbollah will de-escalate. News at UN Security Council. Envoys blame Hezbollah for Lebanon violence. Pan-Israeli response. The Times of Israel.s. Carney says Canada faces a crisis of antisemitism. The Canada is failing the Jewish community and Jews are being targeted, Carney says. Chair of Carney's new Faith Advisory Council defends its mandate and membership. CBC Opinion, the truth that Mark Carney avoided saying, Israel has become the international Jew. The Globe and Mail. Carney points denier of Al-Aqsa martyrs terror status, encampment lawyer to Antisemitism Council. The Jerusalem Post. Tropical Storm Jangmi set to lash wide area of Jan. The Jan Times. Heavy rain from tropical storm raises flood risks in the Tokyo region. Yahoo! Tropical Storm Jangmi batters Jan, cuts power to 60,000 homes. Typhoon Jangmi makes landfall in Jan's Wakayama Prefecture. Jan Wire by Kyodo News. Typhoon Jangmi threatens Jan as Europe swelters. Protests against Kushner-linked resort in Albania enter second. Rescuers search for alternative route to reach 2 missing in a flooded Laos cave. News how the Laos cave survivors found the courage to rescue themselves. Laos cave survivors help with plan to find last 2 missing men. The best outcome. Laos cave survivors surprise rescuers by freeing themselves. Yahoo! Laos cave rescue workers report a knocking sounder in search for last 2 missing people. ABC News, breaking news, latest news and videos. Mette Frederiksen secures 3rd term as Danish Premier after coalition deal. Financial Times. Denmark's Mette Frederiksen to form government after months of negotiations. Danish PM unveils plans for welfare push, defiance of Trump. Frederiksen set to start a 3rd term as Danish Prime Minister thanks to firm position on Greenland. News. New Danish government vows to resist Greenland pressure and tackle cost of living. American soldier and British soldier die in training accident in Iraq. CBS News. A U.S. soldier and a British soldier die during training in Iraq. NBC News. U.S. British soldiers die in training accident in Iraq. USA Today. British soldier killed in training exercise accident in northern Iraq. U.S. Top EU official tells Western Balkan countries that bloc's enlargement is real. News press statement by President Antonio Costa following his meeting with members of the presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Concilium.europa.eu. Brussels officials head east with tour of Balkan cycles. Financial Times newsletter, keeping the Western Balkans EU dreams alive. Euronews. Russia finance officials tell Putin war spending is unaffordable. The Jan Times. See more headlines and perspectives on Google News. The Pentagon is too fixated on China, by Mark Hertling. The Bulwark Opinion. Pete Hegseth goes to Asia. WSJ. The Great Indo-Pacific Hedge, deeper defense ties as U.S. doubts grow and China ascends defense spending, China in Asia and lessons from Ukraine, takeaways from the 2026 IISS Shangri-La Dialogue. CNBC. Asia reckons with China as Trump pulls back Politico. Ship in Iraqi port is struck by projectiles as Iran claims responsibility. The Panama-flagged vessel hit by explosion near Iraq. Some Kaza. 2 explosions hit cargo vessel in Gulf of Iraq. Officials say second attack ignites fire on Master of Science ship as Iran claims responsibility. Tradewinds news. Large explosion as Master of Science container ship struck in the Gulf Sea. Trade maritime news. Ranked military spending by country in 2025. Visual Cyclists. Beware the costs of the global rearmament boom. Council on Foreign Relations. Rearming for Resilience, the global push to sustain military power under pressure. Part 2. Homeland Security Today assessing the near-term outlook for defense spending in Asia. The International Institute for Strategic Studies. Bomb spending impacts global economy, Justin Wolfers argues. Traders Union. Fancy a summer-long treasure hunt? A $23,000 gold prize awaits in Finland. Trump's financial ties face scrutiny after moves benefiting allies and family. News inside the Trump money machine, how the president and his family are cashing in on his return to the White House. The Independent. The Trump savings accounts. As AI makes strides in mathematics, mathematicians urge caution. A famous math problem stumped humans for 80 years. AI just cracked it. Russia is seizing children to use in combat, Ukraine. News. Zelensky says Russia is training abducted Ukrainian children to fight for Moscow. The Hill. Ukraine's forcibly transferred children must not be a bargaining chip. Zelensky. Russia is brainwashing Ukrainian children to fight. The Times new propaganda film on how Russia protects the Ukrainian children whose lives it destroyed. KHPG. In pictures, motorhome and wine coaster among items embezzled by Murrell. Former S&P chief Murrell leaves court in handcuffs as France seizes Russian suspected shadow fleet vessel. Politico.eu. France seizes another sanctioned tanker carrying Russian oil. French Navy seizes Russia-linked oil tanker in high seas. Macron says. NBC News. France detains tanker linked to Iranian network accused of moving Russian oil. Euronews. Putin remains uncompromising on Ukraine, but is public discourse on war changing in Russia? Ukraine changed its tactics, and now Putin is slowly losing the hill. Bombs raining down on Ukraine can't hide signs of Russia's faltering war. The Putin faces a series of setbacks, fueling discontent in Russia and raising doubts about his strategy. Le Monde. Ukraine's new FPVs hit target 60 miles behind Russian lines. Forbes. Thanks largely to robots, Ukraine is now talking about winning, not just surviving. Defense. One startups shore up Ukraine's defenses with sea drone swarms and robot trucks. Ukraine turns real-life kills into video game thrills for drone pilots. The drone racers might seem like ideal combat pilots, but trainers say they have to relearn almost everything. Red stripes in Welsh cave declared Britain's oldest art after being dismissed as a natural phenomenon. NBC News. Striped rock dismissed as natural in 1928 reclassified as UK's oldest cave art. Archaeology. Britain's earliest prehistoric art found in Gower's Bacon Hole Cave. For 100 years, scientists thought these red markings were natural. Now researchers say they're ancient art. Scientific American. Britain's oldest cave art may have been rediscovered in Bacon Hole Cave. PHYS. He won a jet on Mr. Beast. Now he's linked to a £577 marijuana trafficking case. High Times magazine pilot who won private jet from Mr. Beast challenge briefly detained in Paraguay over drug case. KTVB. Imagine winning a jet on Mr. Beast and then getting arrested for someone else's drug smuggling operation. Yahoo. Mr. Beast viral pilot Jabari Brown reportedly facing international investigation tied to alleged £577 cannabis seizure. The Times of India. Mr. Beast's $2. In first major European trip, Pope Spain visit to touch on polarization, migration. National Catholic reporter. First stop for Pope Leo in Spain will be center that gives royal treatment to homeless. OSV News returning to the fold. Magyar teases deal on Hungarian minority to lift veto on Kiev's EU. Bid Euronews.com. Hungary PM Magyar ready to meet Ukraine Zelensky in post-Orban reset. Magyar signals Ukraine reset ahead of expected talks with Zelensky next week. Politico.eu. Magyar hopes for deal with Ukraine this week to open EU talks. Bloomberg.com. Ukraine, Peter Magyar hints at an end to the deadlock in accession talks table. Unpacking Germany's campaign for a UN Security Council seat. Inside Germany's fight with Austria for a coveted UN Security Council seat. Politico.eu. Philippines UN Security Council bid could amplify ASEAN voice on global issues. Analyst CNA explainer, UNSC non-permanent candidates, voting procedures. Herald.co.